drifting on by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.
Welcome, race fans. It's Friday evening, and you know what that means. It's time for the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series presented by Jam Printing and Promotions. The drivers have battled hard through 9 races so far, and we've seen a handful of different drivers find victory lane, but the regular season ends today at the flat track of New Hampshire. Who's going to make it above the cut line, and who will have to hope for better results next season? Well, you're about to find out, and you'll see it all live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and with me in the booth tonight is Scott Shive. Behind the scenes is our director, Eddie Smith, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, Scott, it's awesome to have you back here in the commentary booth with the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series. We just came off of Atlanta, a totally different racetrack than what we're about to see here at New Hampshire.
Well, I'm glad to be back, Joey, and you're right. These tracks could not be more different, and New Hampshire couldn't be a better track that they chose to end this regular season and set our playoff field today. These drivers, again, like you said, they're so different. This track is very flat. These corners, extremely flat. These cars, you have to dive in there. You're rolling through the corner, so very different drives. These drivers have been practicing all week long to get prepped for this final regular season race.
And that is the key words right there, the final regular season race. Here is what the drivers have done so far. Started off with the super speedway at Daytona, went to Phoenix, went to Dover, went to Homestead, even threw in the road course at Watkins Glen, the short track of Iowa Speedway, the mile-and-a-half of Kansas, and then the last few weeks have really been the curveballs. North Wilkesboro, Atlanta, the new Atlanta, right? The super speedway Atlanta. And then we find ourselves at the flat track, the 1 miler of Loudon, New Hampshire Motor Speedway today. Then we transfer into the playoffs, so the drivers will have to go face Michigan, Richmond, Darlington, Pocono, and in fact Nashville to end out this season. But it is all focus on the 1 mile flat track that is New Hampshire Motor Speedway today. And we keep talking about these points, right? It is all up to that cut line today. Everybody who has had a win, well, guess what? They're in yellow on the left side, so they are locked in. And Scott, it's all going to be these names pretty much on the right side of the screen. Jewell, Drabick, Wallace, McCrary, Ellingson, Stubblefield, Marshall. We're going to have to watch those because look at how close they are. Only 1 point separating that cut line.
Those drivers are so close. They're all within 24 points of each other, and that means that you could go from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top in this race. So these 7 guys on the right side, all of our guys here on the standings board in white, all of them will be fighting as hard as they can today. Personally, I want to be one of those guys on the left side, but if you're not, if you're one of those guys on the right, you have to give it your absolute all today, Joey, because it is now or never.
Mentioned that we are at the flat track of New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire up here. It is a 1 mile track. It is all in the driver's hands. We say it's a driver's track, and it's going to be about driving it in deep into those brake zones, like Scott said, letting the car really roll through the middle of the corner. That requires patience here at New Hampshire, and then being gentle with that right foot. It is so easy to get eager on the gas here and just roll onto the throttle too early, either cause understeer or oversteer on that corner exit there. So it is a tricky little racetrack. It seems simple, but it really is a driver's track up here in New Hampshire. It's going to bring us to tonight's Veteran Spotlight. Tonight's Veteran Spotlight is Mickey Isaac. Mickey served 9 years in the Kentucky National Guard. During that time, he served in multiple MOSs, such as Combat Engineer, Heavy Equipment Engineer, and Military Police. He deployed to Iraq in 2004 and 2006. We are glad to have Mickey be part of GLR. Thank you for your service, Mickey. Well, Scott, that is going to bring us to the action on the racetrack. Practice is just now dwindling down, so that means the drivers, they're going to get stepped into the qualifying session. They only have 2 laps and 5 minutes to lay down their best time.
Well, they only have those 2 laps, and those 2 laps might be two of the 3 most important laps of this race. 2 of them are the qualifying lap, and 1 of them is the final lap of this race. The reason qualifying is so important here, Joey, is because what we know about New Hampshire is it is hard to pass. It is such a difficult thing to get under a driver and get around them here at New Hampshire, and that's the reason that this qualifying is so important and why I say that these 2 laps are 2 of the 3 most important of tonight.
Watch all of these trucks start to accelerate out, and it is a little bit of a different qualifying than what we saw last week at Atlanta. Now, that was really the super speedway where you take the first lap or 2 to get the car up to speed and then take the shortest distance around. Scott, I'm pretty curious, honestly. Is it going to be the first lap? Is it going to be the second lap here at New Hampshire? Because you're going to have to go for it pretty much from the drop of the green flag.
That's something I'm interested to see as well. Personally, I think it's going to be that second lap just because you can use that first lap to warm up your tires, allow them to get just a little stickier, give you a little bit extra grip on that second lap. So I'm going to go with a guesstimate of the second lap, but you really never know here. We're just going to have to see how it works out with these drivers, but I'm going to say lap 2.
And, you know, that's kind of what I had in my head, too, is we're just going to kind of have to wait and see, right? Is it going to come down to the tire temperature warming up, providing them a better lap on lap number 2? Or is it just going to simply be you want the fresh rubber right out of the box? But I can tell you that Jonathan Cofield is currently sitting on your provisional pole in that number 53. He has found victory lane before. He knows how to win here at GLR. Watching the number 39 of Brandon Evans come across, and Brandon, You're right, Scott. That lap number 2 proving to be the faster of the 2 laps. It jumps that 39 into second.
Well, he's looking extremely good right now. But again, these drivers, they're all choosing when to qualify. They have this whole 5 minutes. Some drivers decide to hop in right when you're able to, right when qualifying starts. Some like to wait a while. They might wait till 3.5 minutes into the qualifying session. So we're not quite done yet. These drivers are going to have to put it out there. But again, we're just going to have to wait to see how this all rounds out.
I think the other big one, Jamie Mullins was our winner back at North Wilkesboro here, so he puts the car P4. The one that I was looking at was the 27 of Jake Ellingson. He's kind of chosen to do his laps a little bit later, and there's always different strategies to qualifying out there, but I like this one personally, where you let everybody else kind of go out and do their lap, and then you've got a reference board on your kind of standings, and you see right there, Jake Ellingson, he knows the time that he's got to hit. He's not happy with that second lap, so it just kind of gave him a ballpark of where he needed to go and how hard he needed to drive.
I agree with you. I like waiting in a scenario like this. I like seeing where the field is truly stacking up so I can know exactly what I need to do as a driver, exactly what marks I need to hit as we're looking along with the 8 of Regis Clark out there on his second lap here. He's going to put down a 31:01. Had a little mix up of the numbers there, but he's going to put down a 17th place right now as he's running his second lap. He's going to want a little bit more than that, though, Joey.
Coming through turns 3 and 4, we're going to watch him finish this lap, and then going to see what the number 8 puts down here. Looks like a 30.7, so it will jump him up into 9th place, and that's going to take us straight to our national anthem performed by Jared Ashley.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you to Navy vet there, Jared Ashley, for that beautiful national anthem. And we've officially got the grid lined up here at New Hampshire. The winner 2 times already in the regular season, Jonathan Cofield in the 53, is your pole sitter. Lined up next to him is another car that has found victory lane before, the 39 of Brandon Evans. Then comes the creamsicle machine of Patrick Drabick in that 07. Jamie Mullins is going to be lined up next to him on row number 2. Then we've got Michael Kostek here in 5th. Jake Ellingson in 6th place. Ryan Pendleton in the number 23 lined up in 7th with Jeremy Gardner next to him there on row number 4. Then comes Regis Clark and Daniel Cunningham sharing row number 5.
Back in row 6, we'll have the number 68 of Stephen McDonald, and on his outside, Trevor McManus. Then back in row 7, starting P13, Brandon Wallace, and P14, Mark McCrary. Then further back in row 8, the 82 of Alan Marshall sits P15. On P16, we have the 92 of Timothy Stubblefield. Then row 9, George Jewell and James Kaufman. And finally, rounding out your top 20, the 58 of Doug Ellingson and P20, Matt Knights.
So, the action that we are going to be doing here, and then we have James Goshen back here as the 21st car. He did not set down a qualifying time. Sorry about the 85. Didn't see him sneaking in at the end there. But what we're going to be doing here at Loudon, New Hampshire is 115 laps, 115 miles. That's easy math right there. 45 miles an hour pit road speed, and that's a little bit trickier than what you think getting on the brakes down there. 2 green-white checkers, no fast repairs as always. We've got that awesome custom fix setup that the drivers are on, and they do have multiple sets of tires available to them on pit road. Watching the pace car round out of turn number 4 here at New Hampshire, dive down onto pit lane. It is up to the 53, and Barney waves the green flag. We are racing here at Loudon, and it's actually the 39 of Brandon Evans getting a tremendous launch on that outside lane. I also see, I think it's the 66 of Mullins going up a little bit wide, but it's a drag race down the back straightaway, Scott.
They're side by side for the lead. The 39 of Brandon Evans has it, but Jonathan Cofield is right there. Early in this race, they are already battling for it side by side. No one wants to give. It's all take. But these drivers have to remember this is 115 laps. There's plenty of time. There's pit stops. There's strategy. They got to make sure that they don't ruin their own race. 39 dives on in there.
Watch the 53 just kind of slide up out of turn number 2, take that lane away. So now Jonathan Cofield is in command of the race. Patrick Drabick slides into 3rd. Jamie Mullins, your car in 4th, and there was some contact there between Evans and the 53. It looks like the 53 is going to save this, so we're not going to get any yellow flag on the racetrack. There's the yellow flag, but that is for the 85 of James Goshen further in the back.
That is going to send Jonathan Cofield, that number 53, from 1st all the way back to 16th, just because Brandon Evans got in just a little bit hot. We'll take a look at it here. Jonathan Cofield right in the middle. Brandon Evans has a good run, just misjudges it, gets into the rear of Cofield.
And you know, I was watching in turns 1 and 2, these two kind of trucks, I'm going to call it posturing and track position. They were both kind of rolling the middle, and there you see just Evans starting to roll the middle of the track a little bit more than the 53, but the 53 was more aggressive on entry. And honestly, Scott, I'm going to boil the contact, at least the contact up front, down to racing, because we're only on like, what, lap 2 right there, lap 3, and these trucks are just starting to get to feel on how each other is rolling the middle of these very long flat corners.
I would have said the exact same thing. What it looks like there is that Cofield is running a deeper entry, and he's slowing down near the middle, able to roll the corner very evenly. But then behind him, Brandon Evans looks like he's running more of a Kevin Harvick line, where he's diamonding the corner, where he cuts low. And when we saw him cut out to the outside of Jonathan Cofield there, he was trying to diamond to get a great run off the corner, make the straightaway longer. So he just misjudged that a little bit, got into Cofield. But like you said, I think that's a racing incident. But that doesn't make Cofield any happier right now.
No, it doesn't. I think the only thing that Jonathan might be happy about is his 2 wins already in the regular season. So thankfully he is locked in to that playoff segment here. He doesn't, I wouldn't be too happy about getting turned around early, but thankfully he does have that safety net to kind of fall back on. And we keep mentioning these points. Well, there is the live point standings. Now, these are unofficial until everything is all settled and done. Race control says we're all good, but this is 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. The cut line is between 12th and 13th right there. So Daniel Cunningham is in the good right now. Timothy Stubblefield is on the outside looking in. But like I said, these are live, so they will be going up and down depending on where these drivers are currently running in the order. Got to give a big shout out to our producer, Eddie Smith, in the background, making sure all these graphics are up and running. And it's really cool to be able to see where these drivers are going to be. Make sure that the commentator's math isn't having to be relayed to the viewers out here, because that is never going to be right. But what is going to be right is a green flag on the racetrack. It's going to be Brandon Evans. Remember, it wasn't from that incident that was the cause of the yellow flag, so he stays up front, has a tremendous launch, and leads the field down into turn number 1. In fact, I see Jeremy Gardner slide his way into the 3rd place position. That 42 truck is up 5 already.
Drabic had just a slower start, wanted to make sure they all got away clean, but now Jeremy Gardner going down on the inside of Drabic for that 2nd position. He wants another point. He wants a position. Jeremy Gardner, as we know, already locked in. He's had a few, I believe 1 or 2 wins this season. We know that Jeremy has been extremely strong, but right now he wants just a little bit more.
Look at the 27 there. That's also Jake Ellingson trying to make himself known at the front end of this field. We were watching that 27 there in qualifying, and remember, he had that big head shake at the end of his 2nd lap, so maybe Jake Ellingson has a little bit more speed on the table, something in that deck of cards that he's hiding for everybody else later in the run. And it's all Brandon Evans out front right now. He's got that safety net of the win, so he's already locked into the playoffs. However, the 07 of Drabic, he is not, right? He is plus 10 to the good, at least coming in here on points, but that still means you can fall. He is still looking to find victory lane this season.
He is looking for victory lane, and if he can't quite get that, he is looking for the cleanest race of his life. As we know about racing, it is never over until that checkered flag flies, because you can be on the last lap in a great sitting points position and you can get taken out, have a tire blow, engine gone, who knows. So Drabic just wants to make sure that he can either get that win or just have a great points day to lock himself in to that championship fight, as we've got caution out at New Hampshire.
Yeah, this one stems back. The primary focus is definitely going to be the 8 car of Regis Clark. I think he got into the back of the number 3 and then also got into the side of another car once that first incident kind of took place. Scott, here's the replay of it all. It happens in turn 1 and 2.
Looking back here at the 8 car, he gets a little wide here. I think he just got into the back of the 3 there and then had a few more problems, got sideways, got loose. Everybody's trying to get around him, and iRacing through that caution as we see upper angle here as they exit out of 4. That 8 on the outside, the 3 gets clear just barely, checks up, and the 8 just didn't know he was on the brakes early, got into him, then gets down on the 23, gets loose, and everybody's going around.
There's a lot happening at New Hampshire here, and with the flat track, you know, it doesn't self-clean, but the cars, they just continue the slides all over the place. And want to give a shout out to Jam Printing and Promotions. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning, local and veteran certified. When they do well, they do good in the community. Thank you very much to Jam Printing and Promotions, also the title sponsor here at Goat Locker Racing. And I still don't see any pit stop strategies being played out here, Scott. I just think it's probably a little bit too early, considering they only have those 3 sets of tires.
It is too early. You just, again, we've seen 2 cautions already in this race, so drivers are thinking about that, and they're knowing, you know, again, what we know about this race league is these guys, they're as clean as they can be. They absolutely race hard, but these guys, more than a lot of series I've seen, are really able to do that give and take and respect other drivers. So these guys know that since we've had those 2 cautions, there is highly likely to be more. And you know what that means, Joey? There could be a late race caution. And if you've got an extra set in the pits at a late race caution, well, I'm going to want to be having some new tires.
I think I would too, especially at a place like this where grip is on the premium for sure. So it looks like we've got the lights out here on the pace car, and this has been a little bit kind of a flashback to North Wilkesboro when we had a lot of yellows just kind of throughout the race. We started out the season with tons of green flag action. That's what these drivers in this series is really known for. So I'm curious, is it just kind of learning everybody's tendencies here at Loudon? Or are we going to continue to see the short track style of racing, the elbows out, prevail here at the flat track? But either way, we've got the green flag, and look at the launch from the inside lane. I count 3 trucks that have gone by the 07 of Patrick Drabick by the entry of turn 1, and the 66 of Jamie Mullins is trying to clear that 07.
Drabick just wasn't able to get a good start there on the outside. He's fallen into third, but he might lose the spot on the inside to that 66 of Jamie Mullen. No, he won't. Drabick will hold, but he didn't have the best restart that he wanted. That 66 is looking right nice.
A little bit of a too wide further back. I believe that's Mark McCrary and Michael Kostek. Yeah, that's the number 3 on the outside. Remember, the number 3 got that big old shove, I believe, from Regis Clark just a handful of laps ago, so he was able to save it. And look at the trucks deeper in the field, fan out 3-4 wide. That's typically found when you see a car go up and bang the outside wall coming up off of turn 2. You're trying to get a good view, get around any sort of skirmish that is going on. And looks like further in the back of the field, yeah, there is some good, hard racing.
Well, we know one thing I just saw. We know why Jonathan Cofield started up on the front row. That's because he has an extremely fast truck. I just watched him one lap ago jump 3 wide on the inside and pass 2 cars in one corner. He's already come back up. He's back in the top 10 from that early spin. He's gained 6 positions since he was falling back. Jonathan Cofield is coming up on the grid.
And I'd be worried if I was anybody up at the front. Look at the tire smoke coming off of the 4th place car there. And now we've got a big old stack up coming off of turn number 2, 3 wide between Ellingson, Mullins, and also Kostek. And we're going to stay 3 wide. Ellingson's going to clear him going into the outside there. But that was a very, very busy moment. And I believe it was all because of the 66 of Mullins. I think that he just got stacked up going into turn 1, got way sideways, and then everybody else piled in from behind. But thankfully, no real big contact was made.
Another thing I'm seeing from Mullins now is he's the first guy that I've seen jump there on that outside, trying to work in that upper groove and see if there's some speed up there. But one thing I also know about that upper groove is you're able to save just a little bit more tire. It may not be much, but you are able now with Jonathan Cofield on that 66's inside.
That 53 is just continuing to work his way forward. So now Cofield is up into 7th, left Mullins on the high side. And quite honestly, Mark McCrary also took advantage of the 66. And now we've got even more problems. I think that's Regis Clark way in the back there, but there's no trucks behind him. We're going to stay green flag. And what was a bad day turns even worse for the number 8.
Well, we'll see him right here in 1 and 2. 2 wide, he's on the outside, and he just loses it, gets into that outside wall of 2s. We'll look at another angle here. That's that 8 car right on the outside. Has some contact, actually. Gets him just loose enough to where he overcorrects and slams into that outside wall.
I think that was the 99 of Brandon Wallace that just slid up the racetrack just the tiniest bit, made the contact with the number 8, and then you're right, Scott, just hard into that wall because of that contact. But this is our fight up front here. So the 39 of Brandon Evans continues to lead the way. Jeremy Gardner running in 2nd place, and Patrick Drabick, to no surprise, hanging out inside the top 3. Always one of the fastest drivers, but Scott, I was a little kind of torn inside last week at Atlanta when Drabic potentially had the opportunity to go for a race-winning move outside of turn number 4 at Atlanta and opted to take the points in second place instead of trying to collect the checkered flag. I'm wondering if we're seeing kind of a similar mentality here at New Hampshire. Is Drabic happy with third place points advancing in off of that, or is he going to go to try to find victory lane today?
It's always hard to think about that as the driver. You always want to win no matter what, but you're as a driver, sometimes you can get so single-minded, you can get tunnel vision and forget about the bigger picture. And while I hate to see that he would have backed off from that move like he did last week at Atlanta, I eventually, as the big picture goes, I think it's the smart play because it has put him in a great points position entering New Hampshire here. He's running third right now, and if he can hold that, he will solidly lock himself in. So, again, it's hard to choose that as a driver, but I really do think it's a smart move because if you risk it at Atlanta and you crash, you put yourself in a must-win situation today.
As we watch the 07 just kind of smoothly and calmly give chase to the front two, the 42 is starting to apply a little bit more pressure to our leader of Evans out front. And if you guys haven't followed GLR at all this season, I'm going to kind of give you a few tips here on these drivers up front. The 39 of Evans is really known for a smooth, calm, and collected first half of his stint. He oftentimes goes a lot slower than what is needed, but he saves his tires extremely well. The 42 here, on the other hand, Jeremy Gardner, has shown he is one of the fastest drivers at all points in every single race, in every single round that we've had. So you can count on the 42 going up there and trying to push the 39. And then we were talking about just the consistency out of that 07 of Drabic. So when we look towards the front of the field here, I think I see three completely different drivers, three drivers that should be getting into the playoffs no matter what. But it is an interesting group. They are totally different in how they are approaching tonight.
I think you bring up a great point. It is so cool to see drivers that have just extremely different styles all able to fight at the front. It just shows you that there is no one correct thing to do. You can develop your own style, your own system, your own way of thinking, and if you can figure it out and make it work and it works, keep doing it. If it works for you, epic. It's really cool to see that of just three different guys who drive so differently and they can all be up at the front fighting for the win.
Now, when you have three different driving styles, tire wear comes into play for sure. And you know, thankfully, I get to comment on a bunch of different races, so I get to see Brandon Evans around quite a bit, and I really do feel like he is one of the better drivers on iRacing in terms of his tire saving and tire management over the course of a true green flag stint, right? The whole stint of it all. We're on lap number 27 right now, so we're only, call it, the first third, probably maybe the first half. So I don't think that the other drivers are falling off quite yet. However, I wonder how hard the 42 pushed to get up into second place. We made the comment of Jeremy Gardner going up all those positions already. Remember, he's up 6 positions from where he started. Scott, you as well as I know, if you abuse those tires early on, really scrape all that rubber off, they're going to fall off a little bit earlier than everybody else around you.
Well, when you enter the corner here, you are hard on the brakes, trying to slow the car down and be able to get it to roll. And that is so abrasive on that right front tire. And if you just don't back up that corner as time goes on, you will start sliding it and you will get slower. You will drift up the track. So Jeremy Gardner, he's now 7/10 back from Brandon Evans, while just a few laps ago, he was only 1/10 behind. So he's fallen back just a little bit, and I wonder the same as you, and we're seeing right now that maybe he did use up just a little more than he might have wanted to. Brandon Evans also, as we've seen, you talked about it, he is great at tire saving, and that's put him in the lead.
I think that Drabic is doing a terrific job as well, just really continuing to push that blue truck there in second place. So if Drabick continues that pressure, I'm sure it's not going to be long before Gardner kind of maybe succumbs to it and has to let the 07 on by for second place. And I don't know if you noticed there, but about a lap ago, the number 53 of Jonathan Cofield, he slid to the inside of that number 3 of Kostek in turn number 1. That 53, your pole sitter, got knocked out of the way early in this race, and here he is back inside the top 5.
You know, I didn't even have to look back at it. I knew Cofield was coming up through the ranks, and unless he had an issue with somebody else, if he can have some clean track, I knew Cofield was coming up on the ranks. Currently sits 5th. But another thing I'm looking at here, Joey, right now we have 3 drivers in the top 10 who are not yet locked in. We've got Patrick Drabick, Jacob Ellingson, and then back in 10th we have Mark McCrary. All of those guys came into today above the cut line, and they're sitting nice and pretty. But another thing I'm looking at, Tim Stubblefield not having the points day he wants right now, all the way back in 18th.
Not where Stubblefield wants to run at all, and he's actually about a second and a half off of the 25 of James Kaufman in front of him. So maybe Timothy Stubblefield had a little bit of problems early on that we didn't catch on screen, but you're right, he came into today 1 point out of the cut line, and you see him there in 13th place. That is your live point standing, so he is currently the outside looking in. I can report, though, remember that 99 of Brandon Wallace? He was the one who made contact with Regis Clark a little bit earlier, as we see George Jewell kind of have a loose moment out of turn number 2. So that 99 of Brandon Wallace, he may be on the good right now, but he's not too far in front of Stubblefield, and he's already kind of had a mishap earlier.
Well, he's 3 seconds back from the next car in 13th, Ryan Pendleton. So he's quite far back from them. And you've got Alan Marshall, James Kaufman, and George Jewell. And then following him, Timothy Stubblefield, all looking to come and pass him just to get 1 more point.
Well, this is the action further up. So we had mentioned the 53 had gotten inside the top 5. Well, that is not enough for Cofield. He now takes away the 3rd position from Drabick there in that white and orange truck. Gets the drive off of turn number 2, and I don't know what he's got. Maybe some extra horsepower under the hood. Just maybe some real smooth driving on those inputs, because straight to the bottom of the track, he's already got a quarter panel on the 42. Now he's even coming up off of turn 4. He should be able to make a lunge into turn number 1.
We went to the back of the field, and he was sitting in 5th. We came back, and now he's almost up to 2nd. He is in 2nd, just in front of Jeremy Gardner. He'll slide up and clear. Now he'll look ahead to go back to Brandon Evans. Golly, he's fast.
Not just fast, but he ran too wide that entire last lap, and guess what? It was a 1/10 of a second faster than our leader, Evans, out front. Now, I don't know if Evans is watching it in his mirrors and now he sees the 53 and lays down an identical lap. So 32.0 from our leader, 32.0 from Cofield, Jeremy Gardner, 32.4. So I think early on, remember, we're not even halfway into this race, but early on, the 2 trucks to watch, the 53 and the 39, and they also shared the front row.
Well, they shared the front row, and again, we've said it twice already, but let's not forget, Cofield was coming through the ranks yet again because Brandon Evans got into him on the 2nd lap. Cofield, we know that he is an aggressive driver. He's a fast driver. I wonder right now if he's got anything to give Brandon Evans besides maybe a bumper or a nose.
I am all about the data over here, folks. So as we watch the 53, let's see what the lap times are as they cross the start-finish line. I had mentioned that it was dead even that last time around. So this time, Brandon Evans actually picks up the pace, a 31.9, and Cofield matches a 31.9 as well. So, Scott, I gotta wonder, is this maybe a little bit of a chess game out front from Brandon Evans? He was able to save early on. He started to run away just a little bit, and now that he sees his biggest challenger in the mirror, I wonder if we're actually seeing the true pace come out between these two.
I think so. And one thing that Brandon Evans has right up on Jonathan Cofield, besides that first position, is Jonathan Cofield had to come through the field. He started on our last restart after the caution in 10th. Back, he's up to second now, but he passed 8 cars to do that. As we see Cofield get a little loose there off of 2, he saves it. But as we know, to get past all of those cars, he had to use tire to do it. Brandon Evans has been flying out front, nobody in his way, nothing to deal with, running clean laps, so able to save more. And that might, for this tire stint, give Brandon Evans just that little up that he needed.
And I can report to you as we're checking in on the 3 and the 9. This is Kostek and McManus, Ellingson right in front of him. But I can report that the 53, when he oh, there goes Trevor McManus off of turn number 2. One of the faster drivers is able to save it before it gets to the grass. But I can tell you, Scott, last week at Atlanta, it did not go in favor of the number 9, and it looks like it's kind of carried over here into New Hampshire.
McManus, you were just about to talk to him, running in the top 10, has a spin out of turn 2, and now he is back in 13th. I know he is frustrated right now.
As we're looking at that number 9 go around the racetrack here, thankfully, didn't impact any wall, didn't even get it into the grass, so it's just a little bit of an ego check to that driver right there. He's got to calm everything down off of the corners. But what I was getting ready to say about our front two, I don't think it's that big of a difference, but Jonathan Cofield is on a newer set of tires than Brandon Evans. When he got knocked out of the way early in the race, he actually came down pit road and got a fresh set of sticky tires. So he does have about 5 laps to the good on that 39.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because I didn't know that. And now that you say that, I imagine that since he had to come through the field, that should put him and Brandon Evans about even. Right now, we're seeing that Jonathan Cofield is running just 1.2 seconds back. So in the past 5 laps, he's been able to close it down by 0.3. I just wonder if he's able to close it anymore.
Well, as we get through some of this racing action, the reason why these trucks are so hooked up on the racetrack is because of Premier Racing Setups. They're the longest running setup shop on iRacing, established in 2016. They offer many different options to help you take your sim career to the highest levels. With over 50,000 customers worldwide, they've got the tools that you need to compete with the best. And a special thank you to them for donating the setups for the truck series here at the Goat Locker Racing Series. I mentioned it, the reason why these trucks are bad fast out there, the reason why the 53 can drive through the field and save tires, the reason why the 39 can go out there and run his alternate strategies is because these very hooked up setups from Premier Racing Setups. So we're watching the lead battle here, and our producer, Eddie Smith, he's always trying to correct me behind the scenes, and I can admit when I'm wrong. I said that Cofield was on some new tires. He pointed out he only had a 4.7 second stop. Now, I wonder if that was just to put some fuel in the tank, give it a little bit of extra gas. I don't think that 4.7 seconds is even enough to change the right side tire, so I think that the 53, if he's on the original set, man, he is one bad, fast dude today.
It doesn't matter if that set, like you said, he is bad fast, and he is still gaining on Brandon Evans. While it may be slow, he's just diving and dipping into that under that 1 second range. So he's gaining, but he's gaining slowly.
Watching on board the 53, that Premier racing setups all over the hood of this thing, really showing it off, making sure everybody knows the reason why this truck is so fast. And I've noticed this for about the last 25 laps or so, Scott. We've got two totally different racing lines between our leader, Brandon Evans. See, look, he's in the middle of the road. Now, I say that, and Cofield follows them here through 1 and 2, but oh, big loose moment as Cofield wags the tail off of 2. But watch this here in 3 and 4. We're riding on board with second place. He goes all the way down to the yellow line here on the other side of the racetrack.
He's been running that ever since we started on this stint. He has been glued to that yellow line. Whatever he's got in his truck, that is what works best for him. He wanted to try something new, like as he goes to the middle here in 1 and 2. That's something new that we're seeing now. He's searching for speed, Joey. He's trying to find something new, trying to see if that middle line in 1 and 2 might be faster. And if it's not, I bet you he'll dive right back down to the bottom, just like he is now, trying the middle in 3 and 4, looking for some speed on Brandon Evans.
As we watch these two just continue to pull away, I mentioned those two are the class of the field, and we'll let them run away, right? They are 4.5 seconds in front of the 42 truck of Jeremy Gardner, who's not even on your screen there. He's about a half second up the road from this battle of Drabick and Kostek. So now the number 3, that is Kostek there. He's trying to get to the inside of Patrick Drabick. And this is an interesting situation for the 07 here. We've been watching the points all race long. We're coming up on halfway. If I'm the 07 and I'm starting to fall back, I'd be scratching my head a little bit. Do you come in early for a green flag stop, get some new tires on the car? I don't know how long you want to run this thing or how far back you actually want to fall.
I don't think you can come aggressively early than everybody else, because if you come now, then you have to run 60, almost 70 laps on your tires on the second stint. These drivers, all of them look like they are running it about where they're going to split this race in half. And again, if you split this race in half, you come now, you're going to pit just a little bit early and have a really long stint on that second set, and you're going to fall off even more. So I think even though Drabick is falling a little bit, he's got to stick with it.
Now, something that, Scott, you had mentioned, and we're going to listen along here, and then we're going to talk about it, but here at New Hampshire with the flat track and how much braking and how much patience there is, these drivers are actually shifting. Let's crank the volume, listen along as Cofield hunts down our leader. So tricky to do, to manage all 3 pedals, manage those RPMs and the downshifts, as well as be smooth on the upshifts, and you can get a big time benefit from shifting around this place. And Scott, maybe you can kind of explain how tricky it is, because going into the corner, you don't want to lock that rear end.
It is extremely tricky. It may seem easy. Again, it looks like these guys are, what a lot of people say, looks like they're running in circles, but it is so much more than that. Right now, we're looking along with some of these cars, the 27 and the 08, battling on the outside. Right now, they're running down that back straightaway, and right here, they're going to enter into 3 and 4, and when they do, they're going to start slowing, start braking, but right here in the middle, they're going to press down on that clutch and shift into 3rd gear. And what you said, you can't do that too early. You have to get your RPMs down, because if you shift too early, your rear is going to lock up and you're going to go for a wild spin. So you have to time it out with each and every corner entry of when you're going to downshift, when your RPMs are low enough, and then you're going to have to judge on the exit when you need to upshift.
As we watch the 08, that is Dan Cunningham going around Jake Ellingson, and that is not what the 27 or the 07 wants to see. Now this yellow number 08 of Cunningham, he is already locked into the playoffs with a win earlier this season. So the further forward this truck goes, it just knocks down the points tallies of these other trucks. And I'm talking about Ellingson, who came in today only 1 point above that cut line. Drabick has a little bit more of a buffer, but if Cunningham keeps going up there, the easiest way to explain this, Scott, is he's literally taking away potential points from those drivers, and they're trying to get all of the points possible because they don't know where that cut line is going to be at the end of today.
These drivers really don't know exactly where they are in these standings, just with the point system, how it works. They might have a spotter that's calling out, as we see some guys now coming into pit. This is going to play into the strategy. The 07 of Drabick is in. He was currently 5th when he came to the pits. We're going to see all these drivers now. That are they going to pull the rest of the field?
Remember, I was saying that Drabick was starting to fall back, and I think that this is a great move. Now, we've got 56 laps to go out here, so we're officially crossed the halfway point. If you made it this far in the race, you can make it all the way to the end, and that was a heavy, heavy impact by a car on the front straightaway, and there's the yellow flag. So the yellow flag is coming out in the middle of pit stop cycles. This is going to throw a curveball, not even a curveball, a knuckleball into the strategies of all of the drivers.
Wow, if we had enough time, not sure if Drabick was put a lap down while he was pitting, but if he had stayed, if he was out, as we'll see the replay of what happened here with that 58, the 58 had pitted just about 7 laps ago. He's got some issues, people in front of him has spun, he spins just to the outside there on the front straightaway, has to get real slow down there, looking along now with Ryan Pendleton.
I think it was one of these other trucks here. Maybe the 58 squeezed by Alan Marshall here in the 82. Oh, this was the other truck that made the heavy contact earlier on the straightaway. Then ended up coming
there
into the 36. And Scott, I think you said what everybody else was thinking.
Oh, look, I'm going to be one of those guys. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. That it's one of those things that's pretty much plain as day. Alan Marshall probably going to, say, oh, shoot, something might have happened. But I'm going to say it. Probably what it was. You'll see that, I don't know if I see anything terribly wrong there by the 36. He's a little bit off the wall, but I wouldn't say he's marginally there. Alan Marshall just gets to his inside on the exit of the corner, tries to side draft him, slow his car. They get a little close, and that 36 moving down just that teeniest bit was just enough to send the 82 into the inside wall.
Very, very interesting times on the racetrack, but we do want to thank Veterans for Life Foundation. The goal of Veterans for Life Foundation is both to revitalize communities and supporting military veterans and their families' successful transition back into civilian life. Through support services, counseling, and education, they provide permanent, affordable housing to veterans and their families. Thank you so much to Veterans for Life and that amazing partnership they've got here with Goat Locker Racing Series. Well, we are under the safety car with 53 laps to go, and because of that safety car, all of the drivers on track that hadn't visited pit road yet, well, Scott, they took the opportunity to come down, get it filled up with gas, put 4 new tires on the thing, and I also see that the 53 of Jonathan Cofield, his pit crew, maybe a little bit faster than the 39, or maybe he was just a little bit better on the launch out of the box. I'm not sure, but he's back to the lead.
Just had some better driver speed there. We saw on that stint, we saw him increasing on Brandon Evans, trying to marginalize that gap, and he was slowly gaining. But one thing I'm looking at besides these cars is the number 7 of Drabick. he is going to be all the way in the back in 14th. He had just come to pit road when that caution came out, so this is a big losing situation for that 07.
I think I saw, yeah, so these are all the cars that are getting the wave around right now that were basically in front of the leaders but had already pitted under green flag cycles. So we've got the 07 back here. I think I saw the 27 of Jake Ellingson. I also think I saw Trevor McManus going wave around, getting their lap back. So a lot of these drivers doing what they can after getting the oddball yellow, getting down a lap to get back on the lead lap. Hopefully get some more points out there. Remember, those championship points are so crucial, and now Jake Ellingson is actually on the outside looking in as we get green flag on the racetrack. The 53 gets a great hole shot launch on that inside lane. We've seen the inside lane prevail all race long so far, and it's actually Gardner that sneaks through into second place as well.
Ellingson started, he got trapped back there with Drabick. He's back in 13th position, needs to gain some spots to gain as well points to be back above that cut line. But up here in the front, it's Jonathan Cofield, followed by Gardner, and then Brandon Evans, then Michael Kostick, and your top five, Daniel Cunningham.
And I would be really worried with that 53 out front in clean air, because we saw Evans set the pace early, right? And Evans is known for saving his tire early on. Well, look at the 53. We know that he was faster than Brandon Evans at the end of that green flag run. If he can show that speed the entire time, well, watch out, everybody else. You are in for a tough night.
Jonathan Cofield he just knows something that everyone else doesn't. It is no matter what track he is on, he's just able to find just a little bit more than you, and that is all that he needs to be ahead of you. We've seen it at so many tracks, whether he gets the win or has a great finish. Cofield just has something that you might not.
We're watching on board some of these cars here go down the front straightaway. Oh, we've got another caution on the racetrack. I believe this might be a little bit further back. Maybe the 64 of Matt. Oh, it looks like we've got Ricky Bobby going down backwards on the straightaway.
He's pulling a Kyle Busch. He's doing a toe mater. He's doing it all. He hits the J turn, the number 9 of McManus. We'll see what happened here on the inside of that 58. Pushes that 58 up real wide. They're side by side. Just a little bit of contact on the exit here. 58 turns down just a little bit too early. Didn't bring it to the wall, and that gets right into the side of McManus.
Yeah, that's a tough. Well, first of all, extra points for McManus for properly executing the J turn at the end of that. You know,
awesome.
that was very well done, and especially in iRacing, you don't see that done or executed well that often. But let's watch the steering wheel here coming off of 4. I mean, Doug Ellingson is not turning left into McManus.
He's not. You're right.
He's not, but he also left about a truck, maybe 1.5 truck lanes to the outside. So I just think that this is a case where the number 9 got caught speeding on pit road, is way in the back of the pack, and when you're racing around others that you're not necessarily familiar with, sometimes you can get caught up in stuff.
It's very difficult there. I think I see, we get that driver view. It really shows us what is truly going on, and we see that the 58 really didn't turn left, and we saw that McManus was just trying to come to the outside. He didn't push up. He wasn't trying. He didn't think he was clear. So I think that's, again, one of those racing incidents that, you as a driver might think, oh, we'll see the 9. Very frustrated with the 58, like we're talking about. That's where the 9 thinks that it was completely the 58's fault. 58 might think it's completely the 9's fault, but when you're outside of the car and you can really see everything, you can really tell kind of both of them.
You saw all of the extracurricular activity after that happened, just some tempers boiling over out there. And want to give a nice big shout out to Cruisin' Classics, located in Columbus, Ohio. Cruisin' Classics has a beautiful 56,000 square foot showroom filled with hundreds of unique automobiles. There is something for everybody out of their hand-picked selection of muscle cars and hot rods. Come on down to visit the facility today or check out their website, cruisinclassicsinc.com. So, we've got 45 laps to go currently. Still got the lights on the pace car. We didn't see anybody dip down pit road this time. So the order is Jonathan Cofield, Jeremy Gardner, Brandon Evans. Those are your top three. Now, I know that there's other trucks on the racetrack. Kostek's had a fantastic day. Daniel Cunningham is up 5 positions to find himself inside the top 5 as well. But when I look at potentially who is going to win this thing, who's got the fastest truck, it really is between those top 3, Cofield, Gardner, and Evans. And I feel like depending on the part of the green flag run, all of them have the chance to win it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's really going to come down to that tire wear / track position. Again, like you said, if I'm a driver, I do not want to see Jonathan Cofield with clean air, because that just spells tragedy and trouble for everyone behind him. But if there's anyone to come up able to fight him, it would be that 3 of Kostek, the 39 of Evans, like we've seen he's fast, and of course that 42 of Jeremy Gardner. So if anyone can do it, it's going to be them, but it will not be easy whatsoever.
Trucks roll down the back straightaway. The lights are off on the safety vehicle. So it's the 53 that is choosing the outside lane. This is very, very interesting. We've seen the inside lane really dominate on the grip on these restarts. I wonder if it's just because that's the car that's launching, and now the outside lane has the better restart. So the 53 with a nice jump, it's going to bring the 3 of Kostek along with them. Really, Brandon Evans is the one kind of left out to dry. He's got Cunningham to the inside. And now the 42 of Gardner is going to try to pull the over-under on the 3 car down the back straightaway. But that top lane around the outside carries some tremendous momentum down the straightaways.
I think I know exactly what Cofield was thinking. He knew that if he put himself on the inside, that Gardner would immediately slip in behind and be on his bumper and give him a fight, force Jonathan Cofield to maybe go a little bit faster than he wanted. But since he chose that outside, it gave the 3 of Kostek a great launch and put the 42 and the 3 side by side, giving Cofield some more clean track. He's now 7/10 ahead of that 3 car.
You mentioned 7/10, and we're not even 2 laps into this restart. I'll give you all the official time as they go by the start line here. Looks like 0.68 is what that driver has put on in 2 miles around this place. So now you see the 39 of Brandon Evans getting to the inside of Gardner there. So he's trying to sneak by Gardner. Maybe burn a little bit of tire early on. That track position is so important if you want a shot at the win, if you want to go away and claim victory here against Jonathan Cofield. Well, guess what? You're going to have to keep up with them first.
That 42, we've seen him. He dropped from 2nd now to 4th. I've got to think that he's trying to save, trying something, because that 39 went by pretty easy for what we know out of the speed of the 42. So you got to think that maybe he is trying to save or something of that nature to try to get just a little edge on the drivers in front of him.
I know that Eddie is looking at this battle right here. Do you see what we've got on screen? Timothy Stubblefield is tied, but to the good, at least on these unofficial points. And now we see Stubblefield move up a position, so it's now Mark McCray. We've got a 3-way tie right now. That is the cut line. 279 points. Stubblefield, McCrary, and Ellingson. Remember, Jake Ellingson was in the top 5 earlier in this race, got caught out on that yellow flag, has fallen way down the order, and the points now are just a completely open book.
It is completely jumbled. Like you said, we saw Ellingson up in that top 10 early, but after that caution came out, when him and Drabic pitted, it put them all the way in the mid-pack, not where they wanted to be. Ellingson and Stubblefield now battle side by side. Drabic right behind him. They'll both go by that number 92, but Stubblefield is not quite done with it on the outside.
Look at this, and this is some good jockeying for position all the way back here. So Stubblefield is that black car. Now Drabic slides to the inside, so both Jake Ellingson and now Patrick Drabic are trying to scoot through here, and thankfully we don't see Patrick Drabic on that standings list. He does have enough cushion coming in here, so he is to the good, but the more that he can advance himself in front of the 92, the more that he kind of separates that points gap, and it's exactly what Stubblefield doesn't want. He wants to carry that position. He wants to carry those points, and now, unfortunately, because things have shuffled around, the 92 of Stubblefield once again on the outside looking in. Mark McCrary is 2 points ahead. Jake Ellingson 3 points ahead, so we're just going to have to keep an eye on these three numbers, the 27, the 83, and the 92. You see two of them right here on the same screen.
Well, 92 of Stubblefield, we saw him exiting to scrape the wall right there. That allowed Ryan Pendleton to go by, and that allowed Brandon Wallace on his inside. Wallace just ahead with 284 points, so almost 8 points ahead of Stubblefield here. But you're right, Stubblefield has to find something. He has to find some speed, because right now we saw that Ellingson and Drabic were able to go right in front of him. If he's going to get back in this fight, he's got to find some speed.
And folks, this is going to change around a lot, right? We've got 34 laps to go, and these positions are constantly being swapped around, and we're watching the 83, right? We're watching this bubble championship points, but right in front of the 83 is the 99 of Brandon Wallace, and then you got Stubblefield right in front of him. So depending on how all these trucks are running in terms of their current position, the 99 might jump up a couple, the 83 might jump up a couple, the 92 might fall down a couple. We're just going to have to watch it as the race continues to unfold, and we're down now to 33 laps remaining, and I can report to you Stubblefield had a huge slide coming off of turn number 4, but this is now the battle for what is second on the racetrack. Evans has caught up to Kostek.
Well, Mark McCrary, again, he's close to that cut line right now. He wants as many points as he can on the outside of that 99, but we look up ahead at Kostek. He is just ahead of that 39, but that 39 has been coming on strong, gaining speed on Kostek. He wants second position.
Gotta remember that Michael Kostek here in this number 3 is really our only repeat winner on paper, and he knows how to find victory lane, so he is going to do everything in his chance to kind of hold up Evans. And you know what, my bad. Cofield has also found victory lane a couple times, and the thing that's similar about those two, the 53 and the 3, well, they're both teammates out there, and they're going to do everything in their power to go and find victory lane again, even if that means just frustrating Brandon Evans. Did you see how frustrated this driver was coming up off of turn number 2? There wasn't anything that the number 3 did wrong. He's just right smack in the middle of the racetrack doing everything right.
It is so frustrating as a driver to know that you are faster than the car in front of you, but not able to get by because of their defense, the way they drive the car. That's one of the most frustrating things, as we'll see 39 of Brandon Evans just has to get out of the gas there just a little bit as the 3 came down on him just a little bit. It does not get more frustrating than that, besides being wrecked by another driver, because it's just like, I'm faster than you. Please move.
Well, and I mean, the 3 is doing everything right. He's not
Absolutely
doing anything wrong on the racetrack. And at New Hampshire, that top lane, it can really provide the launch coming off of the corner, which makes it so difficult to make a pass going into the corner. You see the 39 really kind of wiggly coming off of those corner exits, and it's because he's getting pinched down on the bottom side of the racetrack. He can't square off the exit as much as he wants to. So it's really going to be forcing that number 3 truck into a mistake out there on the racetrack, or if we've seen anything so far, the potential of another yellow flag maybe later.
Well, like you said, that 3 absolutely doing nothing wrong, doing exactly what he needs to do. This is, if you're the driver in front, this is what you want to be doing. You know that Brandon Evans is faster than you. You can see it. You can see it on entry. You can see it on exit. But you know as a driver that he's not significantly faster than you where he's going to wreck you if y'all get into something. He's just a little bit, and you can use your car and put it in a certain place to be able to block him and keep him behind you.
I tell you what, the 39's getting so close to that left rear quarter panel of Kostek. He was really kind of playing on thin ice going into the corner, just trying to get up alongside, and then almost lost the front end through the middle there. Thankfully, didn't make any contact. And I was going to say it looked very similar to the beginning of the race, but it looked completely different. Evans was on the outside when he had that contact with Cofield earlier in the race. So I just think that this is a classic New Hampshire battle where you can defend being on the top side of the racetrack. You can make life miserable for that truck that's trying to get by on the bottom, no matter how much faster he potentially is.
Another thing I love is Evans is racing so cleanly. He's racing well. We've seen him have some contact with that left rear of Kostek, but man, he has that contact. It is so easy to make one wrong move and mess up Kostek, spin him, or wreck yourself, and he is just able to put it right where he needs to be. So love that give and take. This is one of those things where Evans knows he's faster than him. He knows if he pushes this run on that he can get by that 3 car, so he just has to be patient.
Sometimes it's just trying to force a mistake, but how do you force a mistake when the driver is ultimately just incredibly consistent? And that is how you do it right there. You go up and you give a little bit of a nudge and say, hey, I know what you're doing. I respect your racing. This is fantastic racecraft, but I've got somewhere to be, and you can keep on holding me up. Eventually, these nudges, they're going to get a little bit bigger every time.
This is that 1, 2, 3, I'm done. That was 2 right there in one corner. We saw a little bit on the left rear earlier, so Brandon Evans is not going to put up with this much longer, and Kostek knows it. Kostek gets a little bit to the outside there, a little bit more to the inside. Evans has right here, but yet again, Kostek has the run. Evans, I know he is so frustrated right now, but again, you see on his screen right there, he's staying calm. He's looking where he needs to look. He knows what he's got, but obviously it's frustrating.
And honestly, it is so tough to do, but what Evans has to do right now is he needs to run the same line as Kostek in order to square off of the corner and get the better drive off, right? We know that the 39 is, in fact, faster. Otherwise, he wouldn't constantly be on the back end of that number 3 truck. So if he can get the same drive off of the corner, it will present an opportunity going into the next corner. It is so difficult to do to kind of follow in that truck's wake. You got to deal with the dirty air and all of that. And sometimes you actually need to go just a touch higher than that truck. But when that truck is already running kind of that marble lane, it is very, very thin ice to go out and do that.
Kostek, again, right where he needs to be. But another thing I am looking at right now, Jonathan Cofield has been running 4/10 faster than all of these other drivers like Kostek and Evans for the past 10 laps. He is 5 seconds ahead of Kostek. He has a commanding lead with 20 to go in this race.
20 to go. We also want to thank Redbeard Design Company. Redbeard Design Company is a brand design and creative agency out of Greenfield, Indiana. They do brand identity, illustration, advertisements, apparel, packaging, and posters. All of GLR's logos since day one are the creation of Redbeard Design Company. So when you see a GLR anywhere, you're seeing a Redbeard design. I know that we've got red beards out there in the race too. The 42 always amuses me out there, Jeremy Gardner, whenever he's logged into the camera, because he is like the poster child. I mean, look at this shot right here. That is a red beard.
That's Mr. Redbeard if I have ever seen it before. If Redbeard needs a spokesperson, they need to contact Jeremy Gardner, because he is the man. Currently sitting in fourth, up 4 positions from his start. As we know, Jeremy is already locked in, so just trying to, he can put it all out there today. We saw him start second on this restart, and he fell back to fourth. He's been sitting there ever since.
I know we get to make all of the silly jokes up here in the commentary booth, but, you know, the paint scheme that Gardner is rocking is pretty dang on point, I must say. Got that Veterans for Life Foundation all over that red, white, and blue truck. So even though he might be a red beard in real life, he is rocking that Veterans for Life Foundation. Always nice to see all of the partners represented on a lot of these trucks out here at GLR. Always makes for a really nice looking broadcast. And Scott, you kind of set the landscape for the final 15 laps or so out here. It really has been Jonathan Cofield out front. He's stretched out to 5.5 seconds, almost 6 seconds now over his teammate in that number 3, who, in my opinion, is 100% run-and blocker on the next fastest car that we've seen today. That is Brandon Evans, and he's just doing a tremendous job. He has officially boxed out that 39.
It's so hard to do. It really is, to be able to position your car like this, like he's been doing for so many laps in a row, and not make a mistake is extremely impressive, because it is so easy. You've got a car that you know is faster than you, right behind you, pressuring you. It is so hard as a driver to continue to focus forward and be able to maintain that focus to not make a mistake. Because you talked about it earlier, Brandon Evans was trying to pressure Michael Kostick into a mistake, and if he was able to do that, he'd be able to get by him. But Kostick was able to have a steel mind and be able to focus on exactly everything he needed to do to stay in front.
And I say that the 39 is the next fastest truck, and look, I mean, he's right back up to the number 3 after getting choked up. So I just think that this is racing at New Hampshire, and in my opinion, the Premier Racing setups have hit it on the head here at New Hampshire. You can run that middle lane, you can run down low, you can run multiple areas of this racetrack, and it gives multiple grooves, multiple lines for these drivers to go out there and strategically place the truck and try to get around your competitor. Even though the number 3 might not be the fastest truck on the racetrack, he's able to hold second place because of how that truck is driving.
It's one of those cool things that you really don't think about. You think about, well, hey, why don't you just press down the gas pedal more? You know, one of those deals. But again, it's one of those where that 39 is faster, but you're just able to use the racetrack and the body of your car to your advantage. You don't have to be the fastest. You just have to know where to put your vehicle, and New Hampshire allows these guys to do it. And like we talked about earlier, it is hard to pass here. That's why we're seeing that 39 just really struggling behind that number 3 car, just because of this track, and it has put the perfect situation for Kostick.
Now, what is interesting and caught my eye that last time around on the live timing leaderboard was that Jonathan Cofield, our leader, actually turned a lap that was pretty similar to these 2 trucks that are battling for second place, and now it's about a 10.5 seconds faster again. So I was wondering if the 53 had kind of ran out front and maybe burned off some of his tires, but I would say that even if that situation was true, with only about 11 laps to go, coming to 10 laps to go, I think that 6.5 seconds or 6 seconds, whatever it is still enough to hold that gap.
I mean, Cofield could be running, he could be running 4 tenths slower right now, and he would still finish ahead of these other two drivers. It is a full 6-second gap back to Caustic. So right now he is running the same pace as these drivers in second and third. So right now it's pretty much locked up for Cofield. But again, I'm not going to say locked up is an extremely strong word to say. We got 10 laps to go. I said it earlier, the race is never over until that checkered flag flies. So Cofield has to stay consistent, make sure not to make mistakes.
We've got the unofficial point standings as they run on the bottom right of your screen. 12th place is that cutoff line. So Jake Ellingson, remember, he was on the outside looking, trying to find his way into that playoff section of the championship points here, and he has been able to do that. He is currently outscoring Timothy Stubblefield by about 12 points on the racetrack, so he has got a healthy margin. Hopefully he can hang on to that, at least in the case of Jake Ellingson. Oh my goodness, there goes the number 3. He is going to make impact into the turn number 1 wall, and I think that was Brandon Evans getting into the back bumper there because he didn't even take advantage. I think this was just a raise of the hand, and Brandon said, you know what, I meant to move you, but that was way too aggressive. I am sorry.
I was watching it all the way down the straightaway. The 39 gets an excellent run. He is right here. Caustic just lifts a little early, and Evans was not expecting it. Evans, Caustic able to correct really nicely there, and Evans giving him and continuing to give him that spot because he knew, hey, did not mean to do that. Again, respect. Caustic was able to save it. Evans saying, I'm sorry, keep the position.
That's exactly what happened out there. And I know that all of these drivers, it doesn't matter if we're talking about Cofield, Kostek, Evans, Gardner, Cunningham. I could literally read down all 21 of these names, and none of them want to go out there and wreck their buddies, right? They want to go out there and earn those positions fair and square on the racetrack. Now, we have seen tempers go over. We've seen maybe some retaliation out there, but Scott, you know that's part of racing, and not only part of racing, that's part of short track racing. And now we've got the 07 of Drabic turned around. No yellow flag on the racetrack, but remember, Drabic is not logged in. There's the yellow flag.
Oh my gosh, this is going to change everything that we know.
Oh my goodness. So the 07 falls all the way down to 13th place on the racetrack. Now, he did have about a 10-point cushion going into today. Had some activity here with the 85 coming up out of turn number 2. Let's see exactly what happens. And oh my goodness, this wasn't malicious at all from either party. Scott, check this out. The 85 just gets loose off of 2.
It looks like he just loses it just a little bit. Tries to correct it, has to come down the track, and Drabic is right there in the wrong place. Terrible for the 07. Like you said, though, he came in with a 10-point lead on that cut line, so he only fell about 5 positions, so he should still be above that cut line, but man, definitely not what the 07 wanted to see. But more than not, the last person on this track that wanted to see that caution was Cofield. After Evans got into Caustic, Cofield was 7 seconds ahead. Now they're all going to have to stack it up and do it again as they're all coming for fresh tires.
Let's see who plays the game of 2 tires, who plays the game of 4 tires, as it looks like we've got literally everybody on pit road here. Don't slide through your box. It is so important not to beat yourself out there on the racetrack. So the 53 up on the right side, the 39 is up on the right side as well. You see Drabic slide into that third pit stall, and oh boy, there's the strategy call. Cofield with 4, Cunningham with 2, Evans with 2.
Oh, I'm surprised more drivers up front did not take 2 tires. We're going to go into a green-white checkered scenario here, which means once we get everything cycled out, when we go to take the green flag, these drivers will have 2 laps until the unofficial end of this race. If whoever the leader is takes the white flag on that restart, well, whatever flag comes out next will complete this race. But a huge gamble by Brandon Evans.
I tell you what, the 08 of Dan Cunningham, he must have hired Lightning McQueen's pit crew. Who is that, Guido out there, right? Where he just shows up everybody else. And I know that the 08 only took 2 tires, but he had a stop that was half a second faster than Brandon Evans. He was buried in the mid-pack, and because of that strategy call and his pit crew, he now finds himself the potential to claim another checkered flag this season.
Hold on. I gotta do an impression. I gotta do this. Pit stop. How was that? Was that good?
It was okay. I think you need to work on it a little bit more.
All right, I'll go watch the Cars movies again. Make sure we'll come back next time. But golly, what a pit stop for the 08. Like you said, he's gonna be out here in second, up 8 positions from the start. So a bold move, but it could work out greatly for him. Again, Cunningham locked in, so he's got nothing to lose here. He's not battling for points really. Already in that playoff field, so he can go for the win, and whatever happens doesn't matter.
The drivers are going to have to think about where they want to line up, or I should say Brandon Evans is going to have to think about it, and he chooses that low lane. Now, Scott, we've seen the low lane be good if the leader's down there. We've seen the high lane be good if the leader's up there. Would you have a preference?
Well, I want Cofield behind me, no matter what, top or bottom, wherever Cofield. I want Cofield behind me because I want to be able to block him. I don't want him anywhere where he's doing something different or able to get something different. I want to be able to do a Michael Kostick like Michael did on Brandon Evans. I want to keep that 53 behind me no matter what.
Yeah, I would go the other. I would want 53 on the opposite side, get boxed in where he can't get the whole shot launch, right? If I was at 39, I'd be choosing the outside. But either way, we're about to see it play out. And Brandon Evans gets the jump that he needs to way out in front by the time he's going to hit the brakes here in turn number 1. Cofield is going to get choked up, and actually a little bit of contact to Ellingson. I believe that was Cunningham actually getting the contact off of 2, so it's all the 39 versus the 53 up front.
Gardner got into that 08 of Cunningham there, put them 3 wide, and the 08 fell down in the back of the field. 39 of Evans gets loose. Cofield has a run. 2 more fresher tires than Evans. They'll take the white flag.
It is going to be official after this, and I have a feeling the tires of the 53 are going to prevail. A little bit of a door bang down there in turn number 1, and now Cofield uses all 4 tires to get the run down the back straightaway. Can Brandon Evans throw a Hail Mary, but he's on the outside of the racetrack. It's going to have to be a mega over-under, and it's just not going to happen. Jonathan Cofield collects another victory.
Wow, what a finish. Cofield ran strong all the second half of this race, had a 7-second lead on the rest of this field. Caution comes out with under 5 to go, but he's able to take 4 fresh ones, start from 3rd, and get in front of Brandon Evans and take the win. He gets a congratulatory bump there from Kostick.
Look at that cutoff line. Remember, it was Stubblefield that was out that we were talking about. McCrary was in, but through that final green-white checkered, the number 92 sneaks his way in. Now, these are unofficial, okay? But Mark McCrary, 2 points to no good. He is looking out, right? Timothy Stubblefield has made it into the playoffs. We'll get the official word from race control as Jonathan Cofield rightfully celebrates with some victory donuts.
Well, what we're hearing right now is McCrary disconnected right at the end of that race. He was 3 laps down on the timing sheet, so he had some packet loss there, and that's what put him out.
We have got the official results for you. Jonathan Cofield, after claiming pole, getting knocked out of the way early, comes back with a vengeance to claim another victory. Brandon Evans, definitely the second fastest truck on the racetrack all day, finishes in second place after the 2-tire pit stop call late in the race. Jeremy Gardner finishes in third place. I really think those were the 3 fastest trucks tonight. Michael Kostek was always right in there and rightfully finishes fourth. Jake Ellingson with a tremendous comeback drive. Remember, he was on the outside trying to sneak his way in. Well, a 5th place in points does that for him. Ryan Pendleton finishes in 6th. James Kaufman in 7th. Brandon Wallace 8th. George Jewell in 9th. And Timothy Stubblefield with that top 10.
Well, then we'll have Steve McDonald in 11. Then it will be Knights and Goshen. Goshen having a great day. Starting back in 21st, will finish 13th. Then in 14th, that 07 of Drabeck. We saw him running right behind Ellingson after that caution during the pit stop, but then had an incident with the 85, was able to hold where he was and still finish above the cut line. Then you had the 2-tire call from Cunningham, but he wasn't able to hold it, finishes 15th. Then you'll have Mullins, McCrary, who disconnected, finishes below that cut line, Marshall, McManus, and Ellingson.
Then I believe the only other car out there was Regis Clark, who had the problems a little bit earlier out there on the racetrack. So, wow, what a finish to the regular season here at New Hampshire. And I believe we've got our winner. Jonathan Cofield is going to be joining us here in the broadcast booth. Jonathan, another victory, another checkered flag. How was it?
It started off a little shaky, but it worked out, man. It worked out. I love this racetrack. I guess I was the only one making that bottom work in 3 and 4. But I could just there was a lot of grip down there. You know, you just got to slow the truck down, get down there, and let it roll. Be careful with it.
Now, I know that you're fast at every racetrack that we come to, but I'm looking at the results here. You won at Phoenix, a shorter track. You won at Iowa, a shorter track. And now you win here at New Hampshire, the short, flat track. You're fast everywhere, but what clicks with these shorter tracks and your racing style?
Just being patient. Patience goes a long way on these flat tracks. You really got to wait on the truck. Uh, Even the other cars, Xfinity and Next Gen, you know, it's all about patience. Really, just waiting on the chassis to decide what it wants to do, get it to roll over.
With that being said, into the playoffs we go. The only short track is really Richmond. Are you going to maybe have to dial up some more practice at the other tracks?
Yeah, I may have to. I mean, I'm decent at mile and a halves. Love super speedways. I just kind of these flat tracks just kind of fit the way I like to drive. You know, just being patient, being careful, trying not to spin the tires off the corner. So.
Well, we're going to be heading into the playoffs. Congratulations on another victory here to close out the regular season. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Oh yeah, I want to thank you guys at Podium for putting on the broadcast. Can't go wait to go back and watch it. Jam Printing Promotions for coming on board and sponsoring our truck series. Awesome league in here. Got some real fast guys in here. Of course, Premier Racing Setups got them on the truck. Once again, awesome setup up under the hood there. Can't say much more about them, man. They're just awesome. Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics. Right now, Roofing, Red Beard Design Company, and of course, my sponsors, SM Racing Products. You don't have a button box, go check them out. Get you 15% off at checkout using J Cofield, Cofield Asphalt Refinish, and Cofield Supply and Service, and my teammates at Bandits.
Well, that was the driver of the 53 finding victory lane for a third time here in the regular season. Just lighten the world on fire. And I believe that Scott has caught up with our second place finisher.
Man, Brandon Evans, what a race. It was so awesome to watch that. I've got a ton of things to ask you because that was absolutely crazy. First off, we saw on lap 2, you were battling right behind Cofield, had a little contact in 3 and 4. Take me through that little incident right there at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, with clean air being so important here, I think that was just a little bit of a disagreement on the braking zone. Definitely didn't mean to get into him and hate that I spun in. I apologize to him in the Discord, and we're all good on that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, there's with the trucks and how they handle with the lower horsepower and stuff, and the way that the body rolls and stuff through the corner. You can really send it by getting to a lower braking point or a later braking point, or you can kind of back up the corner. So I think we were both kind of thinking opposite, which is why we made contact.
Well, we saw after that, we had pit stops around halfway through the race, and that put you behind Cofield and behind Caustic for a long time there on that second run. You were stuck behind Caustic. We could clearly see that you were faster than him, but take me through that as well. What is that like as a driver, trying to get past somebody like that that's just a little bit slower but able to defend?
He that was a teammate blocking for the other teammate leading the race. I mean, there's no other way to put that. I was trying my damnedest to not wreck him. He chopped my nose a couple times on the exit of the corner. I got under him and was trying to maximize the exit so we could at least have a drag race down the straight and go for it again in the corner. But you know, he gave me a couple 0x incidents where he made a little contact, and then when I ran him over, that was also a disagreement on braking zone. There's a couple times I had full intention of if I had to move him into the marbles, I was going to, because we were literally getting killed like 2-3 tenths a lap. But you know, hey, if that's how you want to race people, you know, so be it. You get what you get. It'll come back to you. But you know, again, I tried to keep it clean as best I could. That's exactly why I lifted off the gas and let him back in. And maybe some of that was from some of the beef that we had at North Wilkesboro. I really don't know. But you know, we'll see how it carries on through the rest of the season.
I thought you showed great respect throughout that fight. I also saw at points you giving them the tap on the bumper saying, hey, I'm here. And if you don't move out of the way, this isn't going to end the best for you. But finally, we had a caution come out with 5 to go. You were still stuck behind him. You decided to take 2 tires to get in front of Cofield. Take me through that decision and what your plan was to try to win that race.
Yeah, 2 tires in full send. There's the left side tires. If you go back and if we can, if I could show you, you could look at the tire wear. The left side tires just I didn't see that the wear was going to be that impactful to have to take 4 with only a 2-lap shootout. I think 4 tires is, you know, obviously it won the race. I botched turn 4, which allowed Cofield to get right up on me. And then I knew what was going to happen if I blocked him down the middle of the straightaway with having such a run. I was probably going to get sent. And to be honest, I conceded. I didn't think. Do I think he would have done that intentionally? No, but that's just the reality of what's going to happen. Because when you're on fresh tires, you can maximize that braking zone, and I probably wouldn't have been able to. So I just felt like to put myself in the best position to not get crashed was to just run my own line, and if I beat him, then I beat him. But you know, 2 tires was the only way I knew I was going to pass him, so I had to try it.
Had to do something different than Jonathan Cofield. Well, it was still an amazing race from you. Now we're finished with the regular season. We're headed to the playoffs. What are you thinking? What does it look like? What's your plan?
Lock into the next round as soon as possible. Michigan kind of breeds carnage, so we'll kind of see how that plays out. You know, there's some short tracks. We got Richmond coming up. It's usually a pretty good track for me as well. So you know, I don't know. Just focus on points. Focus on trying to get to the next round.
Sounds like
so-
you've got a great idea.
Yep, that's it. That's pretty much how. That's my plan.
Brandon
Try my
Evans,
best. Yep.
he's got a great plan. Brandon, before I let you go, anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank Podium. You guys do an awesome job in the broadcasting booth. Thank Goat Locker, Jam Printing and Promotion, Premier. Man, they put a really great setup under us today, and I had a lot of fun driving it. Clearly, the speed showed it for sure. Veterans for Life, happy to be a sponsored driver with them this year. Cruising Classics, right now roofing, and Red Beater Design Company. Design really great logos. And again, thanks to Podium and Goat Locker.
Well, that was Brandon Evans, your second place finisher. Next, we'll have Jeremy Gardner, your third place finisher, and he's caught up with Joey.
Well, Jeremy, congratulations on another podium to close out the regular season.
Yeah, man, I'll take it. Top three. I didn't think I was even gonna finish top 10 tonight. This is damn sure probably one of my worst tracks.
So you say that, but we noticed that you really ran inside the top three, the top five the whole time. Was that just due to your natural prowess on iRacing, or was it something that you picked up along the way tonight?
Definitely picked up along the way tonight. I ran practice and I guess I just kept trying to throttle up too soon. I guess once I got in race pace, I could kind of build a rhythm. My biggest problem I fought tonight was just trying to stay consistent. I had nothing for Brandon or Cofield. They ran a hell of a race. But I think another thing that messed up my pace about halfway through the race when Cofield got up front was I was just trying to figure out what he was running to run 2 3/10 faster than us, but it didn't work out. But overall, great race. I mean, very few cautions. I mean, everything was pretty clean.
So I have to ask you, since we wrapped up the regular season, you are one of our winners here in the regular season. Is that the strategy going forward? Is to basically win and advance yourself into that next round, or are there certain racetracks you're circling in the playoffs? How are you going to approach that?
Just try and stay consistent. These little flat tracks damn sure ain't my best, but once we got the ovals coming up, I think it's our time to shine. Cofield, I think he just got regular season championship, so congrats to him. But Team Gardner about to go for the championship.
That's what we always like to hear. And before I let you go, who do you want to give a shout out to?
Shout out to GLR, Jamie and Pat for everything they do. Jam Printing and Promotions, Premier Racing Setups. My sponsor, Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics, and Right Now Roofing and Red Beer Design Company. Appreciate all they do for us, and of course, y'all guys every week.
That was Jeremy Gardner, one of the regular season winners, finishing third place today here at New Hampshire, hoping to take it all when it comes down to those championship rounds. And I believe that we've got one more interview lined up here with us. Scott, you're standing by with the man who snuck his way in.
Timothy Stubblefield, what an amazing race. We saw you all night long. We saw you start 16th, but in the pack, running mid-pack all night long, not able to be where you wanted to be, but you snuck in right at the end. Take me through this race. Take me through the middle of this where you're sitting mid-pack.
Yeah, yeah, I really snuck in there. I'm really not good here. I was like, I just need a good one up front. I think right there in the beginning, that second caution, I believe, I tried to miss it. Got up half the field past me. Got in the back. I never caught back up. I was like, I'm out of this thing. I said, I need somebody to wreck in front of me in points, but it never happened. I was like, just hoping, but I guess it works out like that at the end.
Well, when that final caution came out, we saw you starting right in that mid pack where you ran about all night. But while we, the broadcasters, were watching ahead at the battle for the lead, you were back there battling to get in the playoffs. Take me through what happened, because I have no idea. We were up front, but what happened there where you were able to get into that top 10 and to eventually secure a playoff spot?
Yeah, I think that after that long green run we had, everybody was pitting, and I just like, let me stay out a little bit longer. Just hope maybe somebody would lose it going in pits, bring out a caution, and I think that works out, and that what got me back up to top 10, and I just need to stay up here.
Well, that strategy call was the one that gave you that final playoff berth. It goes to show that you never give up no matter what. Now, Timothy, that you're in the playoffs, What are those playoffs going to look like for you? How are you going to prepare?
A lot of practice. I know a lot of the guys in the playoffs are really, really, really good, and I got to do a lot of practice to hang with them. Definitely Cofield. I know he's one to beat, so a lot of
Well,
practice.
practice is an excellent idea. Cofield has 3 wins, but Timothy Stubblefield, gets in there in that final playoff berth. Before I let you go, Timothy, anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
The sponsors, Jam Painting and Production, Premier Race Setups for the setups tonight, and Veterans for Life Foundation, and the guys that put on the league and the broadcast and everything, and definitely my wife that's always in the comments, and my families that watch and everything that were supported. So big shout out to them.
Well, we know that Timothy Stubblefield's family is proud of him for making this playoff, and he's going to fight hard to go and try to possibly win that championship, Joey.
It was an awesome race today. I mean, an awesome way to close out the season between North Wilkesboro, Atlanta, and then here at the 1 mile flat track of New Hampshire. And Scott, it was awesome to have you here with it because the points, they were just crazy through the middle of the race. And then it was so cool to see Stubblefield be able to leapfrog his way up and be able to make it into the playoffs. But that's it for the regular season.
I love cutoff races so much. They always provide so much action, so much aggression, so much strategy, and just so much going on in the race, so many storylines. It's always great to be able to call those and just get to watch these guys fight it out hard. But the regular season is now over. It's time for all of these drivers to look ahead for that round of 12 and that first race in Michigan.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head. Next week is going to be Michigan out there, a completely different track than what we've seen the previous couple weeks. I had mentioned a short track of North Wilkesboro, and then we went to Atlanta. That's probably the closest that we've seen to Michigan that we're going to see next week, but it really is a super speedway style of draft pack racing. We're going to see 3, 4, 5 wide. That racetrack is incredibly wide, so don't miss out. Friday, April 12th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. And want to give a shout out to all of our partners one more time: Jam Printing and Promotions, Premier Racing Setups, Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruisin' Classics, and Red Beer Design Company. And a huge thanks to those behind the scenes at Podium Esports. That's Ryan and Rachel Bauer. And also, thank you to the team today, Eddie, Scott, and Dougie. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you at the checkered flag.